Currently on campus, a campaign at Carleton University in Ottawa to tear down a statue honoring Mahatma Gandhi. What's their reasoning? Are they justified? These answers and more just ahead. What's their problem with the Gandhi statue? They being the Institute for African Studies and the Ontario Public Interest Research Group, have alleged that Gandhi is a racist, misogynist, sexual assaulter, and overall violent dude. These positions and more are articulated in a letter posted to the university paper, The Charlatan, which is linked down below. But this does not just affect the African Studies department, as the tearing down of the statue would affect the campus as a whole, and make a statement about where Carleton University stands on the matter of Gandhi's character and legacy. Therefore, it is important that we tread carefully, steelman each other's arguments, and attempt to pursue the truth of the matter, rather than becoming polarized against one another in an attempt to suit our ideological agendas. Otherwise, we risk defending evil, or, on the other hand, tarnishing the legacy of an influential hero in the struggle against such evil. The assertion made against Gandhi were on the basis of a quote. Well, the rest, I assume, must have been gathered from the book referred to in the article, the South African Gandhi. If all these claims are true, then it would be sinister to have a statue of Gandhi up on campus. However, if they do not hold up, then it would be similarly sinister that whoever wrote the article made such serious claims without the academic rigor to back them up, as they would be using claims of racism and misogyny and sexual assault as a means to an end. On that note, we'll get into the sources of error regarding the assertions of the letter. Firstly, the terms of the argument do not hold up logically. The author claims that in order to make a distinction between two unique groups of people, that distinction must inherently be based along the lines of race. However, by suggesting that when Gandhi advocated that Indians and South Africans were different in their adaptedness to an industrialized environment, he ignores any possibility this distinction had to do with the distinct cultures of these two groups originated from. Calling racist the distinction that Indian immigrants were more capable to integrate into the merchant class of South Africa, coming from industrialized cities, than the agrarian or nomadic natives of that region, implies that the capabilities of both groups are not learned but inherent to their race. This letter bases its accusation of racism on a racist logic, assuming that one cannot distinguish between the qualities of two groups of people with different races, without that distinction being based upon their race. Gandhi was specifically quoted as calling the South African people a derogatory term that, since the 20th century, has carried a highly racialized and derogatory meaning. However, the term, which can be found quoted in the original article, did not carry this derogatory meaning from the start, and not when Gandhi used it. Of course, the British were openly supremacist, so merely to denote another person's race as non-white was to them derogatory. The term was not in and of itself a racist one. It originally referred to African Bantu-speaking agrarians who were distinguished based on their farming practices, as the term is originally derived from the Semitic root kfr, meaning to cover, describing the process by which they buried seeds under the dirt in their farming practice. In this sense, Gandhi was clearly distinguishing between the agrarian culture of the South Africans from the more industrialized culture of India, rather than specifying that it was their brown skin that somehow made them more valuable. This makes much more sense, too, as the British would hardly have cared about a racial distinction, as they would have still viewed both peoples as inferior to them and open to discrimination at their discretion. However, Gandhi made the case that Indians were more valuable to the British as subjects, as they shared a similar culture and were already adapted to the industrial and merchant landscape of the colonial period, incentivizing the British to capitalize on capable and willing workers rather than a strawman analysis that insists he appealed them to take pity on the Indian people based on their race. But what of the allegations of misogyny, sleeping naked with his niece, and dedication to a cruel caste system? Well, to start, he was by no means a misogynist, as Gandhi opposed all sexuality not in the service of creating life, not just women's as the letter proposes. This is unsurprising coming from a man who renounced all possession and pleasure. Now, moreover, he had many of the most capable women in his entourage and at the vanguard of his movements, advising women to live safely in a society where they were often correctively raped with no recourse to get justice, merely for keeping their hair immodestly. At the same time, Gandhi fought against the practice of forcing modest dress upon women through opposing the purdah, the mandatory veiled dress of women. The girl he allegedly slept naked with wrote a memoir about being raised by Gandhi titled Bapu, My Mother, doting over his maternal and loving nature. On top of this, as referenced in Gandhi and his critics, the original accuser, Gandhi's secretary, affirmed there was no impropriety on Gandhi's part in the letter clarifying that he never slept in any room of his own, or even if he did sleep in a room, if there was no veranda in the house, there were others like Parsuram and others, Gandhi's stenographer, who slept in beds beside him. In the same way as the other allegations, his cited support of India's caste system falls apart quickly under scrutiny and could not be further from the truth. The claims that Gandhi actually furthered the entrenchment of the caste system in India is also false. When the British sought to segregate the lowest class, the untouchables, into an electorate separate from the rest of India, Gandhi began a fast until death. His concern was justified, as when the Muslim caucus was split, it led to bloody civil war and the division of the country. News of Gandhi's fast inspired people to open up temples, wells, and public places to the untouchables, an unprecedented show of solidarity and anti-caste sentiment. This provoked the leaders of the caste Hindus and untouchables to devise an integrated alternative to replace the proposed British partition. Gandhi said this about his actions: "I am undermining it completely," he said, "by my tackling untouchability. If untouchability goes," he said, "the caste system goes." The claims of the letter for the removal of the statue of Gandhi fall flat of proving Gandhi to be a racist, a misogynist, or a violent man, as is alleged. All we are left with is a blatant attempt at historical revisionism, which smears a symbol of nonviolent incremental change, and does so by invoking race, sex, and sexual assault, when such claims are made with the intent to pursue an agenda, with no regard for the presumption of innocence, rather the immediate jump to infer malevolence on the part of the accused. These words lose their potency if Gandhi can be said to be a racist or a misogynist, while so much information to the contrary is available. Then we all have cause to be concerned. When Gandhi, you, and me are all in the same category as Ku Klux Klan members, on the basis of conjecture rather than due process, then we have conceded our identities and beliefs to be impugned by those who categorize us as evil oppressors, and that such categorization does not have to be based on fact, but instead on out-of-context quotes and hyperbole, means racism and misogyny cease to effectively identify those among us who harbor hateful sentiments, and instead become tools of forwarding a political agenda and silencing dissidents. Such politically motivated commandeering of language harkens back to McCarthyism, when historical figures and regular people could have their lives and reputations ruined merely at the accusation of them being a communist, without the requirement of evidence. This allowed political figures to remove their opposition without having to prove their guilt, giving them a heckler's veto at the outrage such labels provoked, without the evidence to back them up. For this reason, I cannot support the removal of the Gandhi statue, and have included links on screen and below in the description where you can contact the Institute of African Studies and, more importantly, the president of Carleton University to voice your concerns about the removal of the statue. Thank you for watching. Feel free to check out another video to find out what else is currently on campus. I am your host, Aiden Karasapan, signing off till next time.